All right. All right, everybody, welcome on in to the workshop. Smith going on in the background. Welcome on in. My name is Tom Alemo. We will be talking about building some pipeline in Q4, closing the year strong, maybe even getting ready for 2025. Welcome in. As we're getting kicked off, everyone just throw something in the chat. Let's make sure the chat's working. Sometimes I make it so it can't work. Let's see what we got here. Making sure. All right, Dez in the house. What's up, Dez? All right, welcome in, everybody. We got some other folks joining, so I'm just going to buy us a minute here. And I would love to hear where everyone's calling in from. My favorite question to ask is not just where are you calling in from, but if I come to your city, is one can't miss restaurant that I have to hit up. So as everyone's getting kind of loaded up in here, I am calling in from Chicago, Illinois. Man, we got some good Italian food here. We got some good deep dish pizza, of course. We got all sorts of good food here. I want to just make sure as people are putting stuff into the chat, there are two options. You can either send it to everyone or you can send it to the host and the panelists. I would encourage you to send it to everyone so that everyone can see what's going on, unless you have something like personal or private that you want to say to me. So throw in the chat, where's everyone calling in from? We're going to kick this thing off in about 30 seconds. Calling in from, and if I come to your city, what is a certain type of food that I cannot miss, or a restaurant that I cannot miss? Again, we are here to talk about building pipeline for Q4 and then heading into 2025. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's up, Ashen, what's up, Ovi. We're going to be talking a little bit about what I'm doing, what I'm seeing in the marketplace, and then I'm going to leave a bunch of time for questions and to chop it up. So we'll probably be on here for about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes. We'll be riffing and see what everyone's up to. So now we're about 5 minutes in. Let's get this. Yeah, don't cut. It's raining here in Chicago too, so it's no peachy weather here. But let's get this thing kicked off. So for everyone that's here, thank you for showing up. Thank you for investing in yourself. The thing that I would ask is, while we're here, obviously I can't see you, so I can't hold you accountable to this, but turn off some notifications. If you write down any notes that you might have. And I would always encourage people to shrink the time between when you learn something and you take action. So hopefully there's something that I say, even just one nugget in a 30 to 45 minute presentation. If you have one nugget that you can take into the rest of your game for this month, for this quarter, for the end of the year, for kicking off 2025, it will be time well spent, in my opinion, to invest this time in yourself. So be here, be present, ask questions. Challenge me, put things in the chat box, whatever it might be. I'm down to riff on all of that, down to answer questions, down to chat about whatever. This workshop is brought to you by 7-Figure Prospecting. This is a boot camp that I run. I'll just let you know right now, I'll take about 5 minutes at the end just to tell you about the boot camp. Our next cohort kicks off next week, where we help train people on the fundamentals of prospecting. So that is something that I will talk about. There will be a special kind of discount offer that I'll give at the end of this, but for the meat of what we're going to talk about will not be about this product. It'll be about building pipeline. So for those that don't know me, I'll just make this super, super quick. My name is Tom. I live in Chicago. I've spent a better part of a decade in sales. Started from selling Cutco knives in college. Throw a hand in the chat if you sold Cutco knives or anything door to door. Anyone that's selling door to door has my respect. Worked my way into selling $30 table knives to multi-million-dollar software deals at Gong and a few other companies. I now run my own firm called TA Sales, where my mission is to positively impact salespeople every day. So some of that is doing workshops like this for free, creating a bunch of free content. It's doing trainings and boot camps and sales kickoffs. We have a sales community. There's a bunch of stuff that we're doing, but that is something that I am obsessed with and work towards building every single day. My fun fact is that I can rap any 90s song. I lead if you've been on a training with me, you've seen these two slides before because I always like to lead with a little bit of credibility, and I also like to keep it real. And a lot of people can have a highlight slide, but not everyone shares background of their own journey and things. So first and foremost, I had a severe fear of cold calling. The first time that I tried to cold call as a 19-year-old sitting in a conference room to sell Cutco knives, first step, I would pray that people would not answer the phone. And the second thing that I did was I would hang up the phone if a prospect answered. Now, for a 100% commission job, I'll tell you that is probably the worst cold call strategy you could think of, is to hang up on people that might even be open to having a conversation. We know how hard it is to get people to answer the phone. So I was just throwing those all in the garbage. Thankfully, I had a good coach who was my manager there that helped to get me out of that rut. I said 0 words on my first ever sales meeting. I still deal with anxiety. I still have imposter syndrome talking with the group. We've got a few dozen people on the line here from all over the world. And I do this stuff quite a bit. And so I always get a little bit of imposter syndrome. And the reason that I bring this slide up is that I'm here to say that, yeah, I'm doing the job. I'm training teams. I'm prospecting every single day. I'm going outbound every single day. But I don't have all the answers. There's no silver bullet to sales. And this is not going to be a workshop where I tell you the one exact thing to do and all your sales problems are going to go away. But there are some tactics, there's some strategies. I also believe in like the thought process of how do we get somewhere. So it's not just what do I say in my subject line or how do I schedule my day, like time blocks, but what's the mentality behind that I should be taking into my day-to-day. So I talk about that stuff quite a bit. And we're going to get into some of the content. So a few things just to set the stage. I don't know about y'all, but this is what I'm seeing in the marketplace in the last about, year or two, or these next few slides. So first off, for most people at a high growth company or a startup or someone in tech, this slide will speak pretty true to them. Yesterday, meaning 18 months ago or 2 years ago, everyone was focused on top line growth. Everyone was focused on record breaking valuations. Their inbound was through the roof. And sales was a lot easier, to be honest with you, versus today that companies are growing a lot more efficiently. They've slowed their growth. Inbound has dried up. Deals are stalling. CFOs are getting involved in deals. It's a tougher selling environment. It's a tougher outbound environment. This doesn't even speak to AI and new email regulations and all sorts of stuff that's coming up that's preventing us at times from doing our job well. We're also seeing a lot of sales reps not hitting quota. Over thirds of sales reps did not hit quota in 2023. So the bar of doing your job well, that's what I view quota as, is like, did I do my job well? Assuming that the quota was set fairly. Was I proficient in my job? And if so, and if I'm really great at my job, then that's when I'm hitting 150, 200%. Some people are hitting 600%, right? And if I had an off year or my skills weren't sharp or I didn't perform as well or something, maybe I'm not going to hit. But the fact that less than 1/3 of reps hit quota, and also 2/3 of sales reps are struggling with their mental health right now. That comes from a Salesforce state of sales report. So the balance has shifted quite a bit in the last year or two. That makes it really challenging, right? And let alone that managers are having a hard time finding time to coach reps. Onboarding is always a challenge. This is something that I've been pretty obsessed with lately, is this buyer's pyramid that goes to say that in most markets, whether we're talking about software or buying a car or professional services or sales training like what I do, the vast majority of people are not trying to buy right now. If you asked 100 people if they were in the market to buy a car, about 3% of them, give or take, will say yes. If you ask the same about sales training, if you ask the same about a dog walker, it's going to be around that 3%. So what most of us do in prospecting and in sales is geared towards the tip top of that pyramid. It's geared towards the 3% that want to have a meeting now, that are sending inbound that have high intent, that are on your website, that are talking to your competitors. And yes, we want to capitalize on that. And we want to be quick and speed kills. And yeah, no doubt about it. Some of us are talking to the 6% that are not actively evaluating, but they're open to a conversation, and we can provide solid messaging around, what's working and open them into a conversation, right? So if we're good, the good reps are getting that extra 6%. So they're getting 9% of the market. The average reps are getting about 3% of the market. The best salespeople that I know getting bottom part of this triangle, the bottom part of this pyramid. And here's how they're doing it. These middle 2/3 where they're not thinking about it or they don't think that they're interested, they're educating these buyers, right? They are helping to shape the way that they see the world, because the truth is that our buyers are getting the job done in one way or another every single day. So whether if your product is some sort of upgrade from a Google sheet, or upgrade from taking notes on with a notebook, or an upgrade from doing things very manually, that's often what a software or a technical product is. It's helping to reduce the amount of manual work someone has to do. Well, they're getting the job done, so they don't know any other way. So the best people are talking about cost of inaction. Right? So what is the cost of inaction? The cost of inaction is, if I'm doing something today, what is the cost associated for me to not change my behavior? So right now, if I'm taking all my notes in a notebook versus maybe having a recorder and an AI transcriber and some cool tech like that, the opportunity cost is, how much time does it take me to write these notes, to type them out, to put them in my CRM and do all that manual work? And what could I do with that extra time? If that's an hour each day, what does that mean? To me as a business owner, that means a lot. I could do a lot of selling, could do a lot of training. I've got an hourly rate. There's ways that we can mathematize that, right? What's the cost of inaction of them not making that change? And then if you span that to every person at the company, and how does that scale? And then how does that go over months and quarters and years? So when we're doing discovery and we're making a cold call and we're trying to intrigue someone, how often are you using the cost of inaction? How often are you showing them the missed opportunity by not acting now? The best sales reps are even able to take advantage and influence the bottom part of this pyramid. That know they're not interested. They know, I absolutely do not want a car right now. I do not want sales training. I do not want your AI note taker. I don't want any of it. I don't need a dog walker. Not only are they educating them, but these salespeople are also playing game. It's not about, do you want to meet next Tuesday? They are a long game to educate them over a long period of time, because in many cases, the timing is just not right. The larger you go up in terms of a sales number and how big the deal is, the more timing comes into play. I'm working with a company that sells a database warehouse management, inventory management. These deals are tens of millions of dollars, maybe even $100 million for the largest companies in the world. But they only get evaluated oftentimes maybe once every 3, 5, 7, 10 years. So the chance that I pick up a phone on October 15th, 2024 and make a cold call, and it just so happens to be at the exact time that they're making an evaluation for that product, is extremely low. We could say if it's 1 in every 10 years, that's 1 in every 300 times 10 days. So what's that? It's a 1 in 3,000 chance, if I do my math hopefully correctly. So it's very, very slim. It's less than 0.1%. So if that's the case, how can we educate them, right? We could send them, webinars to check out. We could send them, relevant information. We could try to make connections through mutual connections. We can invite them to an event. We can start to build the relationship over the long term. And the best salespeople are playing this game knowing that that bottom 30%, they're not going to buy this quarter. They're not going to buy this month. But if I am a true sales professional, I am thinking about this quarter and how can I crush, but I'm also thinking about Q4 2025 and everything in between. How can I set myself up so that Joe in this bottom part of the pyramid might be considering us, or when the time's right, I want us to be the first people that he thinks of. That's the type of sales professional mindset and actions that we need to have. We're continuing to butter up and play the long game. And that's one of my favorite sequences that I use. I call it the stovetop sequence because I come from an Italian background, and in Italian culture, you got grandma working the stove on Sunday and making a delicious sauce, and it's a low simmer. And that's what I'm doing with a lot of prospects. I'm continuing to simmer. I'm continuing to poke and prod, add value, stay warm with them, keep touching them, make sure that they feel good. And so that when the time comes, I'm the first person that they think of. There's a book called Positioning where I'm going to paraphrase the data a little bit, but about, I think it's 63% of deals go to the first company that comes to someone's mind, whether it's Coke or Pepsi, or whether it's a large software purchase. It's Salesforce versus HubSpot. It's the one that has earned the credibility in their mind. That's who they go with. But all of that work is done up front. All that work is done before it's time for them to actually take action. So how often are you planting those seeds? The best salespeople, yes, they're hunters, but they're also farmers in the sense that they're always planting seeds for a harvest next season. I'm going to keep this thing rolling. Again, I'll just reference. You can feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat. These are things that I'm doing. These are things that I am focused on and working on right now. The whole emphasis is that we want to stop winging it. This is what I say every single day to salespeople. I like the quote from James Clear that losers have goals and winners have systems. So what is our system? Every day, there should be some sort of plan of attack that you have. Even if it's not the perfect plan, it's just something to maximize the amount of time and effort versus spraying it everywhere. So to make this more practical, what I would do is, depending on how much time I had to go outbound, I would pick 1 to 3 channels, and I would just every day go into those. So for example, I'll name a few that I've done in past jobs and what I do now. So when I was at Gong, one of the best opportunity creators were people that used to work, people that used to be clients that found a new job. I could create a report on Sales Navigator. There's also technology like User Gems and Champify that help to show that say, hey, here are folks that used to work at these companies and now they're in your book. I would look at that list every single day. I would do something to progress every deal that's in my pipeline every day. What's one thing I can do to progress this deal, to get one more person involved, to add value, to prep for the meeting, whatever it might be. Another one is, what is just the greenfield great idea of a good trigger? So for me, it could be a VP of sales that's hiring a bunch of sales reps, right? That's usually a good time for me to come in and help with some of the onboarding and coaching and training. Perhaps it's opening up a new office. Maybe for you, it's some sort of intent signal. If you're using one of the intent data providers out there, there are many great options. Maybe it's they went to an event. If you're social selling, maybe they're looking at your profile or commenting on your posts or something like that. But what every day can you go in and say, when I have my time to go outbound, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 triggers that I can just keep coming back to? To me, that's a system, because I've got the same time that I do it. I've got the same place that I'm looking, and it's the same motion. I'm going to make a call. I'm going to send an email. I'm going to hit them up on LinkedIn. I'm going to put them into some sort of a sequence. And over time, that is the system that's going to play out, where the numbers, the law of large numbers and the percentages are going to work in your favor. So here are a few things that I like to do when you think about closing the quarter, closing the year, things that I would look at. So when it comes to pipeline building, and again, feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat, anything that you want clarified, anything else that I can help with, even if it's on a different topic. I'm happy to just help while we're here on this call. We've got another probably 15, 20 minutes. We'll probably go till about 11:45 Central here. So a few things that I do. Pipeline building, I want to go to the lowest hanging fruit that I can find. So are there no-shows? 12 months, people that I booked a meeting, but they didn't show up or I got ghosted. Are there closed lost opportunities from the last 18 months that we can go into? Are there churned accounts from the last 12 months, the people that used to use their service and left for some reason? These are, on top with people that have customers at another account, are low-hanging fruit because there's some sort of familiarity that they've already shown with our brand, with maybe even with me as a sales professional that I can go back to. I got the LinkedIn green bubble strategy from Sam McKenna a while ago, so shout out to her. But if you're using LinkedIn to prospect, I don't know if you knew this, but everyone has either no bubble, a green bubble that's not filled in, or a green bubble that is filled in. So one thing I can do is I could go to LinkedIn and I can go and try to find everyone in my DMs that has the green bubble filled in, and I can hit them up as a follow-up because that means they're active right now. Execs oftentimes aren't on LinkedIn a lot during the middle of the day because they're in meetings and they're busy, but they are typically on there as part of their prep. They might be on there on a Sunday morning or a Sunday evening or a different evening or some other point in the weekend where things are quieter. That might be when they spend their time on there, and that is when I look to attack. So if I'm short on meetings or pipe, I might go there, spend an hour on a Sunday or something like that, and hit the green bubble strategy. You could also use the time of year and the time of the quarter or the month for some incentives. So I love a good Friday cold call. People are in the best moods. I'm in the best mood. We're creating distance. There's energy. I'm going for it, and I tend to have the most success on Fridays. I'll call any day, but I find that Friday is a good day for me to cold call. As we get towards the end of the year, some things that I've seen work well is like I've done some donation matching, and I've seen that from companies that might be donating to certain causes around the holidays. Taking a meeting. It's maybe it's not whether or not they want an Amazon gift card, but maybe you donate to a charity that means something to them. That could be interesting. Even the human element, if you're very close on your goals, being upfront about that, you don't want to overuse that, but it is something that might be able to be helpful for you to get connection with someone. So those are all things that you might use as in terms of timing for your incentives. But this is the time of year where you want to go back to past opportunities and past deals. People are changing jobs. People have their budget set. Q4 is just a beautiful, beautiful time to sell. And so how can you take advantage of that with the lowest hanging fruit possible? Again, questions are always accepted if anyone wants to throw any in the chat. Otherwise, I hope people are taking some notes and maybe have a nugget here. When it comes to, I know this is really about building pipeline, but for my deal closers out there, here are a few things that I would think about as we're closing the quarter and even closing the year. Okay. The first thing is that I want to go looking for trouble. What does that mean? It means I want to ask myself, why would this deal not close? Not why would it close? Why would it not close? And I want to go ask those questions to the prospect. I want to have the most uncomfortable questions. We don't have the right person involved. Budget has seemed sketchy. Do we have to talk to procurement? What's the legal process take? Are we the vendor of choice? So on and so forth. And I want to ask those and suss out so that either I can help resolve that and we can problem solve together, or I can not waste my time and energy on an opportunity that's not going to close, and I can spend it in the right areas. So I want to, in The Godfather, they say they want to hear bad news quickly, and I think that's very true in sales. It might not feel fun, but we want to hear bad news as quickly as we can. The second thing is I want to use a mutual account plan on every single deal. So there is some software to do this. I use a Google Sheet. And essentially what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a timeline with a prospect around what a project's going to look like. So there's going to be steps around, the proposal, around, legal, or whatever steps that you need to close a deal. But I also want to have steps that come after the deal, because The deal closed for me is great, but for them, that doesn't really mean anything. For them, they want to see an impact. So in the account plan, I want to have, when are we kicking off? What's implementation look like? How often am I checking in? What are other things that our customer success team is going to do or that I'm going to do to make sure it's successful? So I want to have all that written down. I want to co-create it with my buyer, and so that we both feel a sense of accountability as to when we can get certain things done. I want to know when people are taking vacations. I want to know how long certain things tend to take with, procurement or finance or whoever. I want to get all of that understood, and really that comes from just spending more time, being more thoughtful, and not being afraid to ask uncomfortable questions. Should be obvious. What percent of calls have a next step attached to them? If there's not a next step attached to the deal, you don't have a deal, point blank. So, at least 80% of your deals should have one. You might not have one on every single one because for various reasons, but having a next step means that the deal is actually really possibly active. And I don't like to throw any blind discounts, in terms of trying to get the job done, get a deal done today, this and that. I believe in give and take as part of a negotiation. And, there's things that I'm willing to bend on, in order to receive something, and vice versa. But, just throwing 10% at them to try to get it done without knowing that that's what's going to get the job done makes you look like a sales person, a sales rep that has commission breath, not a sales professional that is their trusted advisor. So we want to be careful when we do things like that. I've got a time check. It's 11:30. I've got one or two more slides that I'm going to show, and then I'll get into tell you for a minute about what the boot camp's all about, and a discount, and answer any questions if we have them. So the last two slides here that I have are really about how do we plan out for next quarter, next month, next quarter, next year. It depends where you're at. Some people are kicking off Q4 now. Some people just did. Some people are doing it in November. So it depends what you're all about. But for any sort of forward-looking plan, I like to have a few things. Number one, what's my why? What's my vision? Sometimes it's one word. Sometimes it's a sentence. Sometimes it's a picture. But what is propelling me into the next step, in my next level? What does that look like? Why am I doing it? Because without that, we're not going to do all the hard work that we need to get there. We know that we're the CEOs of our own life. So I like to blanket this out into four general buckets. There's like my business and career bucket. There's my relationships bucket. That could be friends, family, significant other, pets, whatever. There's my health, mental health, physical health, spirituality. And then there's like the time, money, freedom, hobbies, travel, things I like to do bucket. And the way I like to think of it is like, what is the one thing of those that if I got those done, let's say in the next quarter or the next year, if that happened, everything else becomes either easier or irrelevant. And maybe that's, you want to make a certain amount of money or land a certain job or go on a certain amount of date nights with your significant other or travel the world or whatever it might be. Only you know that answer. But if we're so busy on the treadmill of life that we're not spending time to actually plan this out, life's going to go on without us. And then the question I ask on top of all that is, who do I need to become in order to achieve this? So the current version of me might not be the one that can make X amount of dollars or have that type of a relationship or travel the world or work out 5 days a week. So who do I need to become? What traits do I need to embody? Maybe it's discipline. Maybe it's not taking life seriously. Maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's hard work. Who knows? And I would highly encourage taking some time, journaling, do an exercise like this. The last couple things that I think about, this is for way ahead as we think about into the next year, but you're choosing a goal. Some of this is a reiteration of the last slide, but you want to create a map for how you get there. So if we just think about the sales lens, you think about, hey, I want to hit quota. Well, the best sellers use sales math. They use Moneyball to determine what does getting there, what does getting to President's Club look like? It obviously means a certain amount of revenue, but it might mean a certain amount of opportunities, certain amount of time prospecting, certain amount of cold calls, certain amount of time learning, all this type of stuff. What does that look? What do all the leading indicators look like to get you to the end goal? So with that, Those are some things that I'm thinking about in October because I'm getting ready for a big Q4. I'm getting ready to hopefully talk to more and more sales leaders and enablement leaders about sales kickoff for next year, about what their teams are doing to close the year strong, to kick off 2025 strong. If that's you, you can feel free to hit me up on email or on LinkedIn. I'm always down to have a conversation. Would love to chat with you about it. Like I mentioned, for people that just want the content today and to learn, then this is the end part of that content. I am going to take about 2 or 3 minutes just to tell you about 7-figure prospecting, the boot camp that we're running starting next week. We will have a discount code here that I will tell you about in a minute. If you're just here for the learning, it's all good. I salute you. I appreciate you for showing up. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to DM me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or anything that you want me to address on the next workshop. If you're interested, here is a quick 1-minute rundown of 7-figure prospecting. So I'm going to throw all this out here. This is what it's all about. It's a 5-week boot camp. It helps you with all the skills that you need to become a great prospector. We're talking cold calls. We're talking research, cold emails, time management, LinkedIn, objection handling, all that type of stuff. We do it in 10 different hour-long calls. I've got some badass guest speakers that are coaching. I've got Kevin K.D. Dorsey in the house, Kristen Connor, Vin Matano, Kat Shuchuk, Sean Gentry. I will be doing some as well. We've got a Slack community with people that are getting connected with other people that they know. And you can try all this out for 14 days. And if you don't like it, you can actually get a full refund, no questions asked. So you don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to show up to the calls. But we've helped over 1,000 people, 1,000 reps, SDRs, AEs, account managers, founders, CSMs, get going with this. It's only a couple $100, and we kick off next Tuesday. So if you're interested, I've got a code here. I'm going to share it in the chat. But if you go to this link and you use the code webinar, you will get 25% off here. So here's this. I'm putting it into the chat for people if you are interested in checking it out. You go to that page, you hit the webinar code. So I'm excited to kick this off. This will be, I think, the 12th or 13th boot camp that we run coming up here very shortly. And I'm excited for it. I would love to have you in. Again, you can come, you can check it out, see what the course is all about. You will have that 14-day full refund policy. Feel free to ask me questions if you have. You can email me or send them via LinkedIn. I'll hang here in case there's any other last questions that come up in the chat or anything like that. Sorry, John Bissett, you said go back to the last slide, and I'm not sure which one you meant, but if you're still here, you can let me know, and I will go back there for you. I was not looking at the chat there for a minute. But again, would love to have anyone in there to the boot camp. You can use code webinar to get a discount. I think we've got all the stuff in here, a bunch of free stuff that we give as well with just different frameworks, guides, real cold emails, tips for time management, tips for cold calls, LinkedIn messages, how to handle objections, sales math, sales sequences and cadences, a bunch of call recordings, stuff like that, connecting with people via the Slack community. So I'd love to see you there. It is a joy to me to be able to help impact as many salespeople as possible. That's the mission of TA Sales. So I'd love to be able to be on that journey with you. Again, you can get 25% off if you use code webinar today. John Bissett, let's go back to the last slide before. I believe it's this one. Feel free to screenshot it. Everyone's going to get a recording, and I'll send you the slide deck as well, so you don't have to, if you're screenshotting, that's cool, but if you don't have it, that's fine too. Leave the door open here for any last questions that folks have. I know we still got a few dozen folks here. Again, thank you. I would like to get in a better habit. I've been doing these about once a month-ish. I'd like to do it weekly, maybe have some guests and chop up on different topics. So if you have ideas on that, again, feel free to DM me there. If I can be helpful to you at any part of your sales journey, let me know. I appreciate everyone that showed up. I hope you have a great October, a great day, a great rest of the year, and go get them. I'm wishing you well, and let me know where I can help. Much love, everyone.